Alright, this is a Godot plugin that I have been working on. What this plugin does is it allows you to take one mesh instance or one spatial and then match that spatial's rotation or scale with another spatial. In addition to that, if the node is a mesh instance, then you also have the ability to snap vertexes together. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate this tool. First, I'll demonstrate matching the scale. So what you do is you pick one of the spatials and you click C on the keyboard for copy. And then by selecting the next mesh, you click S on the keyboard and you can then match the scale of the original copied mesh. Next, I'll demonstrate matching the rotation. So again, select your source mesh, click C on the keyboard for copy, click your next mesh, and click D for degrees, since R was already taken by Godot. And you can notice it aligns the rotations. Another thing that you can do is you can actually match the scale and the rotations at the same time. So click the mesh that you would like to match both the scale and the rotation. Click C on the keyboard for copy. Then click your next mesh and click A on the keyboard for all. And then you'll notice that the meshes are now same size and aligned in space. By the way, all the transformations that are happening here are global. So if you were to say, add another spatial here, and then I'll move one of the mesh instances under that spatial. If I was to take that spatial, for example, and change its scale, you'll notice that this mesh here now is much larger than the others. Again, I can click on the source mesh, copy, and then click on the mesh that's underneath the spatial and click A, and you'll notice that it'll match the rotation and the scale of the original mesh. Now you may want to actually start snapping one mesh's vertex to another. So in this case, I am going to take this blue mesh here, and what you do is you close in on one of its vertexes. And so move your mouse close to that vertex and then click V for capturing that vertex, and then select your next mesh, and near one of its vertexes click M on the keyboard, and it will merge those two together. And you can see that those two vertexes have now been snapped. So in this next demonstration, what I will do is I will align these cubes as you would, or excuse me, I'll align these mesh instances as you may do when building a 3D modular type level. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take my mesh instance and click C on the keyboard for copy, and then select my next mesh instance and click A to match both the scale and the rotation, and next mesh and do the same thing. And then I'm going to move these out of the way. The next thing you want to do is, because all the snapping and the rotation and the scale matching that is done on a world transformation, you want to make sure that you have your your local transformation matched. So an easy way to do that is just to kind of look at your model and make sure that your arrows, your orientation is pointed correctly, and you can see that maybe if you turn that off and then you look at this and you see, okay, my world transformation is not matching my model. However, if I look at the world transformations of all of them, you can see they're kind of all oriented the same way, and that is because, again, the rotation and the scale are made to match on a world transformation. However, when we go to do some movements, that may not make as much sense. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and select our source mesh and close in on the vertex that we would like to snap to. I would like to snap to this corner here, so I'm going to move my mouse very near that corner, and I'm going to click B for the vertex, and then I'm going to select my next mesh, and I'm going to move in near its corner, and then select M, and you'll notice it has snapped, and then I'm going to select the next corner on the blue mesh here, and I'm going to click V. That's my next source, and then I'm going to click the red, move in on its corner, and then click M, and you can see that I have now been able to snap all these meshes together, and you can see that the overall orientation of the models is kind of in an arbitrary direction. So this gives you the freedom of being able to kind of snap these pieces together and not necessarily have to work in a very restricted grid-based type system. The next thing you can do is, again, make sure that I'm going to turn these cubes, for example, into like a scorpion's tail. So I'm going to move into local space, and I can do that because all of these are oriented the same way, and it'll make rotating around the axis is a little easier. So I'm going to take these models and move them out of the way a little bit, and I'm going to then rotate this blue mesh here. This becomes part of that scorpion tail. Oh, good grief. Rotate, there we go. And then I'll move on to the red model here, and he'll be rotated even more. Actually, he doesn't necessarily need to be. He's already kind of vertical, so I'm going to leave him like that. I'm going to take this green mesh again, and I'm going to take his vertex, and I'm going to click V near that vertex, and then I'm going to click near the blue, and you can see that he is now snapped. And then this blue vertex right here, I'm going to mouse over near that, click V again, and then I'm going to go to my red, and I want to move this bottom one here to the top of that, and you can see that I have now started to make the curve of the tail, for example, and I also have snapped the meshes together, and there is no gaps between those meshes.